Moving personnel, equipment, and material from one place to another is a necessity in most wartime military operations. These resources must arrive at the right place at the right time and in good condition. Frequently, road travel in the form of a convoy is the most desirable method of movement. A convoy is always organized for a specific purpose and according to a specific plan. Some of the Air Force's more common uses for convoys in wartime include transporting resources from bases to aerial ports and moving war reserve materials from pre-positioning sites to a base of intended use. Convoys are also the logical way to move resources and personnel as part of a base denial effort. History has shown that convoys have notoriously been targets of choice for enemy ambush. Therefore, defensive tactics do become a major concern for convoys during a time of war. It is during these all too frequent situations when the convoy must fend for itself that the establishment of defensive tactics is essential. These tactics can well mean the difference between failure and success, life and death. Consequently, the thrust of this video is directed toward convoy operations during a period of conflict. Specifically, this video will cover convoy principles, planning and coordination procedures, defensive preparation measures, and convoy protection operations. Transportation within the Air Force has been primarily directed toward the use of air transport whenever possible. However, Air Force motor transportation is very well suited for short hauls and supply distribution. Another exceptionally useful advantage of motor transportation is its ability to reach locations which cannot be served efficiently by air. The very nature of civil engineering work often dictates that we travel off of the base proper to obtain supplies, conduct utility repairs, and in general move resources between distant points. It is during these travels outside the protective cover of an air-based ground defense force that we become highly susceptible to enemy action. Under normal circumstances, a security police or military police escort should provide all the defensive expertise and tactical support required to protect a convoy. However, the convoy's security posture will be greatly enhanced when the prime beef personnel know how to deploy tactically from a vehicle, select and move to hasty cover, and then engage the hostile force under the direction of the security police escort. There are several terms peculiar to convoy operations that you should be familiar with. It's important that we take a moment to address some of the more common ones. A convoy is defined as a group of 2 or more vehicles organized for the purpose of control under a single commander. The convoy commander may be a senior officer, company grade officer, or a non-commissioned officer, depending on the size of the convoy. Basically, the convoy consists of all of the vehicles involved in a single move over the same route. The vehicle which precedes a convoy, or one of its elements, and sets the pace or rate of speed is the control vehicle. The rate of march is the average speed of a convoy column over a period of time, including short periodic halts. When a convoy is attacked, the vehicles that are receiving direct enemy fire are in what is called the kill zone. Well, now that you have a better understanding of the key terms associated with convoy operations, let's take a look at the principles that are required to make up a successful convoy. Civil engineering personnel will usually be involved with 2 kinds of convoys: normal convoys and hazardous convoys. Normal convoys consist mainly of general-purpose vehicles that do not exceed legal limitations of maximum overall length, width, height, weight, or axle loading. These vehicles are also capable of maintaining normal speeds on the highways. Hazardous convoys are composed of large, bulky, motorized equipment. 1 or more of these vehicles may be extra wide, may be over length, or may travel at unusually slow speeds. Overweight vehicles can also be placed in this category, since most of them have 1 or more of the above characteristics. Having become acquainted with these 2 types of convoys, it's time to see how convoys are organized. The convoy must be organized to meet mission requirements and provide the degree of control necessary. It is the convoy commander who decides how the convoy will be organized, choosing from three basic methods: close column, open column, and infiltration. The difference between these formations is largely vehicle spacing. Close column is the formation generally used in moves under blackout conditions or when traveling through congested areas. In this formation, elements of the column are grouped as compactly as possible to reduce road space to a minimum. Vehicles follow each other at a minimum distance, which safety, traffic conditions, and the tactical situation will permit. An open column convoy is generally used during daylight moves. The distance between vehicles is increased to gain a greater degree of protection from hostile action and to permit concurrent use of the highways by other traffic. The infiltration column is used when maximum security, deception, and dispersion are needed. This type of movement involves the dispatch of vehicles, individually or in small groups, to a predetermined destination over one or more routes, at irregular intervals, and at irregular rates of march. To an observer, an infiltration move looks like ordinary casual traffic. Vehicles should normally be dispatched to produce an average density not to exceed 8 vehicles per mile. The infiltration column is suitable for daylight moves, movements in congested areas, and on routes which cross heavily traveled roads. All convoys, regardless of size, have 3 elements, each of which has a job to perform. These elements are called the head, the main body, and the trail. The head is the first vehicle in the column. The pace setter rides in this vehicle and sets the pace according to the speed that can be maintained by the slowest vehicle in the convoy. The officer or NCO at the head ensures that the column is following the proper route, also checks at scheduled checkpoints, receives orders or changes in orders, and issues such instructions as necessary. The main body of the column follows immediately after the head. It consists primarily of vehicles carrying troops, equipment, and supplies. The trail is the last element of a convoy. The trail officer or NCO maintains discipline, prevents straggling, and provides final clearance at designated checkpoints. Being at the end of the column, the trail officer or NCO is in a position to notice if anything is going wrong and can take corrective action. Often a maintenance truck is included in the trail. At the time the order is given to form a convoy, command and control procedures must be completely spelled out. This includes the chain of command to be followed on the convoy. Control of convoys can be exercised in 2 basic ways. First, it can be exercised by the organization making the move. Second, it can be exercised by the commander of the area through which the convoy will be conducted. Both situations often occur, to some degree, together. Organizational control is always exercised during convoy movements. The unit commander, whose trucks are using the road, makes sure that the supervisors and drivers obey traffic laws and regulations, speed limits, time and distance gaps, routes, and schedules. In a combat zone, area control is usually the responsibility of the forces holding the area. These forces can be from either the United States or our host nation. Area control may be enforced by using traffic control points and roving patrols. We have already seen that the convoy commander can use either the close column, open column, or infiltration methods of movement as a means of convoy control. The column can be further controlled by using the following individuals and methods: the convoy control officers, convoy discipline, and halts. Convoy control is exercised through control officers, such as the convoy commander, the advance officer, the pace setter, and the trail officer. Also assisting with control are the guides who lead or direct a convoy, and escorts and patrols which provide liaison between the convoy and control points. The convoy commander can be either an officer or NCO. This is the individual everyone looks to for overall control. The commander must be free to supervise the movement of the entire column. The advance officer should be an experienced officer or NCO who precedes the column and reconnoiters the routes. This individual selects detours or alternate routes to avoid bottlenecks and posts guides or markers for the convoy to follow. The pace setter should also be an experienced officer or NCO who rides at the head of the convoy and maintains the rate of speed necessary to meet the planned schedule. For prime beef convoys, the trail officer is normally positioned at the rear of the column to check and observe vehicles at the start point and ensure that traffic from the rear is warned when the column halts. The trail officer also picks up guides and markers left by preceding elements of the convoy, makes on-the-spot investigations of accidents, directs the evacuation of injured personnel, and effects the repair or disposition of disabled vehicles and equipment. Since a vehicle maintenance individual is usually not assigned to a civil engineering squadron, when one is required to support a prime beef movement, the Survival Recovery Center will make the appropriate tasking. Guides and signs can also be used to control a convoy by placing them at key locations to direct vehicles over the correct route. They are normally provided by the unit making the move. Escort and security elements may be used to assist a convoy. They can help direct the convoy and protect it from interference. During a period of conflict, convoy escort and security elements are usually provided by the security police, military police, or host nation forces. Convoy and security commanders should plan and coordinate all convoy security matters. In a nutshell, convoy discipline comes from training and effective control within the unit. Convoy discipline ensures cooperation and teamwork. It can only be attained by thorough training, plus constant supervision by every officer and NCO. Practical experience in convoy movement and attention to detail, such as proper vehicle operation and strict obedience of traffic regulations. The immediate and effective response to all signals and orders, and proper care of vehicles or equipment. Halts can also be used to help control the column. They are made for rest, personal comfort and relief, messing, refueling, maintenance and inspection of equipment, and for scheduled adjustments while allowing other traffic to pass. During halts, all personnel have responsibilities that must be performed. Officers and NCOs must check the welfare of their personnel, verify that the loads are secure, and ensure that operator maintenance is performed. They should also give instructions to the drivers that will ensure the column gets started with a minimum of confusion. Intra-column communications will help provide the convoy commander with information on activities taking place within and on all four sides of the column. The commander can use this information to control the movements of the convoy and to ensure that the convoy reaches its destination with as little disruption as possible. There are several ways to communicate while on convoy. Sign messages from the front of the column may be written on a board and posted on the driver's side of the road, or displayed by a guide. The drivers then read the messages as they pass the signboard. Visual hand and arm signals constitute another means of convoy communication. Column control signals may be given from the cab of a vehicle or by a person standing on the road. Standard hand and arm signals used for convoy control are contained in Air Force Manual 24-306, the manual for the wheeled vehicle driver. Radio is by far the best way to communicate during a convoy. However, if radios are to be used, establish a command net to include the convoy commander, support security force commander, advance party, and the trail party commander. Movement of personnel and/or equipment is often vital to the success of the mission. In this section, we'll cover the planning and coordination needed for a successful convoy operation. There are a number of factors that determine the amount of planning needed when a convoy movement is to be made. These factors include the purpose of the convoy, the quantity and type of cargo to be hauled, loading point, destination, and arrival time. In a war zone, you must also determine if an escort will be required. Regardless of the tactical situation, all of this information is usually obtained from orders and instructions issued by higher authorities. Next, you must determine the number and type of vehicles that are necessary. This can be decided after the amount and type of cargo are known. The number of people needed depends to a large degree on the number and types of vehicles needed and the potential for ambush. The number of vehicles, distance to travel, and personnel involved are the factors that determine the amount of supplies, such as food and gasoline, which will be required on the trip. After the composition of the convoy has been determined, you should answer the following question. What is the best route? Where are the halts to be made? At what speed will the convoy travel? Where will fuel, oil, and other supplies be obtained? What are the en route communications procedures? Where are possible ambush locations? Where are the friendly forces located along the route that can be called on for support in case of trouble? Now, in order to answer these questions, you may need to perform a route reconnaissance. Route reconnaissance simply means to survey the route over which the convoy movement will be made. Reconnaissance should not only be performed before a convoy starts, but during the move as well. In a combat area, you must make a more thorough reconnaissance, because lack of information here could prove to be disastrous. If your reconnaissance has been thorough, it should provide you with many types of critical information, such as the location and nature of major alternate routes, major road junctions, and detours or bypasses, time and distance measurements between major points, sizes, types, and conditions of road and shoulder surfaces along the route, limiting physical features along the route such as maximum grades, clearances, and load limits, facilities providing fuel, vehicle repairs, rations, and water, traffic densities and critical points such as bottlenecks and points needing traffic control or highway regulation, locations of potential hazards, and routes which may afford protection from ground or air attack. Convoy movements need to be coordinated through the appropriate authorities. This will help to ensure as trouble-free a movement as possible. Be sure to get all the necessary permits and clearances required by those authorities as early as possible. Usually these arrangements are made through the base transportation officer in coordination with the security police. Close coordination is required to determine the type and amount of support needed. During a conflict, all Air Force convoy operations must be cleared through the Base Defense Operations Center. The initial coordination should be made through the Survival Recovery Center. All decisions regarding convoy security support will come from the Base Defense Operations Center. As a general rule, if a prime beef convoy is to travel within the boundaries of the main defense force, a security police escort will not be required or provided. During the Vietnam conflict, it was common practice for the military police to provide convoy security if the route of travel took the convoy outside the relative protection of the main defense force. Once the necessary planning and coordination has been accomplished, the convoy itself must be correctly prepared for the trip. This preparation should include briefing team members on the convoy purpose and mission, and inspecting both individual equipment and convoy vehicles to ensure their readiness. Good operator maintenance is critical. Poor maintenance can result in the loss of vehicles and their cargo, as well as jeopardizing the lives of convoy team members. Individual operators must also inspect their own vehicles and make sure the cargo is correctly tied down. It is important that vehicle maintenance personnel inspect all vehicles before they go to the convoy assembly area. If a truck has mechanical problems in an area thick with enemy forces, the truck and its cargo may have to be destroyed or disabled. Vehicles not afforded standard armor plating should have their cab floors sandbagged with a double layer under the driver's seat. Take care not to hamper the movement of the operating pedals or the driver's access to them. During the final preparation period, communications personnel should check their equipment and turn their radios on to the convoy frequency approximately 1/2 hour before start point time. All personnel, including escorts, check their weapons and ensure that they are clear. Rounds will not be chambered until a designated point along the convoy route is reached or until directed to do so by the convoy commander. A final meeting of escort and key convoy personnel should take place to go over the actions that should be taken in the event of a tactical emergency. If there are any questions, they should be clarified at this time. Up to this point, we've been discussing convoy preparation for daytime operations. Even though it is unlikely that you'll be involved with a night convoy under tactical conditions, a limited discussion about it is necessary. During the Vietnam War, night convoys were found to be extremely vulnerable to ambush and sniper fire. Therefore, they were avoided whenever possible. However, if an air attack during daylight hours is highly probable, travel by night in strict blackout conditions can be an alternative. But as a norm, night convoys are considered to be much more vulnerable than their daytime counterparts. The conditions under which military traffic will move at night depends on the enemy threat. Night moves are basically planned the same way as day moves. The main difference is the higher degree of coordination needed for a night convoy. Here are a few tips that should help in this area. Night convoys should be kept as small as possible. They should use only roads that the drivers are familiar with. The escorts should be highly prepared and alert. The vehicle recovery and towing capability should be increased over that of daytime convoys. Additional radios should be provided to ensure rapid communication between all elements in the convoy. The convoy commander must decide whether the convoy will travel under total blackout conditions or run with the lights on. The conditions of travel are dictated by the enemy threat at the time, but as a general rule, night convoys should be avoided whenever possible. Day or night, the very nature of an ambush places an ambushed unit at a disadvantage. During war, the possibility of being ambushed exists whenever moving. Consequently, a convoy must take all possible steps to reduce its vulnerability. Several passive measures have proven successful in helping to avoid an ambush. For example, select the best possible route for the convoy and perform a road reconnaissance when practical. Obtain all current intelligence information and use proper security procedures to deny the enemy of any knowledge of the convoy prior to its departure. Don't present a profitable target, and when on the road, don't be predictable with either your starting times or halt locations. In addition to taking actions to avoid an ambush, there are other steps that will help minimize the effects of an ambush, such as hardening all non-armored vehicles, covering all loads to prevent the enemy from seeing what's being carried, spacing prime targets throughout the convoy, wearing field gear and body armor, using assistant drivers as shotgun riders, being alert for changes in familiar scenes along the route, expecting ambush upon detonation of mines and automatic weapons fire, notifying the escort security forces by radio using prearranged signals. Do not tie up the frequency with unnecessary conversation. Maintain strict radio discipline. Thoroughly briefing all convoy personnel on immediate action drills and practicing immediate action drills. Calling for external support when ambushed. After all possible steps have been taken to avoid and minimize the effects of an ambush, there are other actions that must take place to defend the convoy if it is attacked. Due to the extensive road space occupied by a normal convoy, and because of security or lack of available forces, the enemy usually has a limited force with which to ambush a convoy. Therefore, guerrilla forces are seldom able to contain an entire convoy in a single kill zone. More frequently, only a part of the convoy is ambushed. That part of the convoy, which is in the kill zone and receiving fire, must drive out of the ambush if the road to the front is open. Vehicles disabled by enemy fire should be left behind. If they are blocking the road, they should be pushed out of the way of the vehicles behind them. Occupants of the disabled vehicle should board a passing vehicle. Armored escort vehicles must not block convoy vehicles by halting in the travel portion of the roadway to return fire. Vehicles which have not entered the kill zone must not do so. Instead, they should stop, and personnel should dismount and take defensive positions. Since the escort vehicles may have left the road to attempt to overrun the enemy positions, elements of the convoy should not fire on suspected enemy positions without coordinating with the escort force first. Gun trucks and other vehicles with mounted weapons should be directed to lay down a heavy volume of fire on an ambush force. As the vehicles move out of the kill zone, the non-driving personnel in the convoy should also lay down a heavy volume of fire on the ambush force. A convoy with limited escort is seldom able to defeat a hostile force and should not try to do so. In such a situation, if part of the convoy is isolated in the kill zone, vehicles that have not entered the kill zone should return to the nearest secured area until supporting forces can clear the ambush. When an element of the convoy is halted in the kill zone and is unable to proceed due to disabled vehicles, a damaged bridge, or other obstacles, personnel caught in the kill zone will dismount, take cover, and return a maximum volume of fire on the enemy positions. Escort forces should move into an offensive posture and try to attack the flanks of the enemy positions. Personnel in vehicles that have not entered the kill zone should leave their vehicles, take cover, and return fire only under the direction of the escort force. External assistance should be called for as soon as the ambush is launched. When contact with the enemy is broken, do not give chase. Protect and care for the wounded, evacuating them as soon as possible. Get the convoy moving again as soon as possible. Stay alert for a possible counterattack. Mines and booby traps are frequently used to start an ambush. There are a number of ways that an enemy can use mines to enhance an ambush. They are often planted along the shoulder of the road for the purpose of harassment and interdiction. A booby trap system may be used against personnel in vehicles by attaching hand grenades to tree branches over the road where antennas or other projections from the vehicles will snag and detonate them. Claymore mines or artillery shells may be suspended from trees and detonated when a vehicle passes. To keep the damage from mines at a minimum, convoy personnel should track the vehicle immediately in front and avoid driving on the shoulder of the road. Whenever possible, do not run over foreign objects, brush, grass, or fresh earth in the roadway. Watch the local people. Frequently, they will give away the location of any mines or booby traps. Using hardened vehicles and wearing combat gear and body armor will also give some protection from mines and booby traps. As you have seen, effective convoy organization and defensive techniques are essential to the success of any convoy movement. Prime beef personnel must be able to perform convoy activities in consort with the security force to meet mission taskings in outlying areas and nearby installations. There is a direct correlation between the amount of damage a convoy takes when attacked and the degree of defensive training its members have received. As a result, prime beef personnel must be trained to react to any situation because the successful accomplishment of both the mission and the life of convoy personnel may depend on it. In this video, we have discussed the types of convoys, convoy organization, command and control, communications, and planning and coordination procedures. We also addressed defensive preparation measures like vehicle maintenance, hardening, and night convoys. Counter-ambush techniques and general ambush instructions were also covered in detail. By now, each of you should have an understanding of the importance of proper convoy operations and the role that you must play if called on to serve as a convoy team member.